You can draw this in Procreate. During this tutorial, we are going to draw a tattoo in Procreate, specifically a Black Panther tattoo. I will take you through all the steps from the simple base shapes to sketching, line art, and then coloring everything. So I'm sure you'll end up with a flotastic end result. All you need is a canvas of 2,500 pixels by 2,500 pixels. We are using brushes that are already in Procreate, and I have left a link to the color palette down in the description if you want to use the same colors as I'm using. And then if you're ready, let's get started. We are going to start by creating a sketch. But before we sketch, we are going to place some guiding shapes, some base shapes to make that sketching easier. Now first, let's pick a brush. Let's go to, let's see, the pencils and use the Bruni brush and just pick a black. Let's check the size. Maybe we can go a little bit bigger, like 30%. Opacity is at 100%. And now we are going to draw a circle. Let's hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen so that you get a perfectly round circle. And then let's make sure that our circle is in the center. To do that, we'll go to the Move and Transform tool. Then over here, turn on snapping, and then place it in the center like this. And then tap the arrow again. So you note that it's the center when you see that vertical orange line. Next, we are going to turn on the symmetry guide. So we get a symmetrical design. We'll go to the wrench, then to canvas, then turn on the drawing guide, then go to edit drawing guide, and here turn on symmetry. And then you can tap a little check mark here to get out of here. Next, we'll go to the magic wand and then to liquefy. Set it to push with distortion and momentum set to none. You can play around with the size. And then let's push here and here to create like a basic shape of the head. Bit like this. And then let's get out of here. You can just tap the magic wand again. Then let's go to the layer menu and create a new layer on top here. And now we are going to draw an oval like this. This is going to be the mouth. And then again, we need to make sure that it's in the center. So let's go to the arrow to the Move and Transform tool. Place it in the center so you see that vertical orange line. And then tap the arrow again. And now we need to turn on Drawing Assist on this layer. We need to tap it, turn on Drawing Assist so we can use that symmetry tool again. And now let's go to the magic wand again to liquefy. Now we're going to push and pull to create more of a shape of a mouth, like a muzzle. So here it's a bit more rounded. Here there's a bit of like an indent. So it's not that perfect oval anymore. So just something like this. And then tap the magic wand again. And again. Then I want one more layer for another like guideline. Let's tap the plus. And let's also turn on symmetry here. Let's tap the layer, then turn on Drawing Assist. And now let's really create that muzzle. So let's here on top, let's make an indent here at the top, and then here we'll go up. So it's a shape like this, almost like a peanut, I don't know, or like one of those sleeping masks. And then we'll go here and we'll make a curved shape like this. This is where the eye is going to be. And then finally, let's add ears. Let's make a curved shape like this. Then here we'll go down and attach it to the face. And then a curve like this. So you can already imagine that this is going to be that panther face. So we have the muzzle, we have the mouth over here, eyes, ears. It's practically finished. So now what we'll do is we'll merge these layers together. Let's pinch them together. And then let's lower the opacity. Let's set it to like 50%, and then make a new layer on top. Set that to drawing assist so we can use symmetry. And now we are going to sketch out our panther. All right, for instance, let's zoom in a little bit. Let's think about those eyes. Let's go over that line again and then add another line underneath and a curve like this, like a circle for the pupil. Let's also think of a nose. Let's go a little bit lower here and then make a curve like this. And then here we have like a nostril, and then we'll go in like this. Here we'll go up. There we have a nose. We can also make lines here around the muzzle. So you can start about here. Then let's go to the center and go up towards that nose like this. Then for the mouth, let's make a more smooth line. And let's also make a bit of like a curved line for like its gums. So that will be the inside of its mouth. And let's move up to its nose where he'll have these wrinkles because he's looking a little bit angry. We have curves. And maybe one here. And also some curves like on top of its like eyebrows. Maybe one here. And some curves here along its muzzle. So now it's already looking more like angry. Let's also go along the outside just so that we have a nice, clean sketch. And we can go along the ears again. So later we can just use this sketch and we can turn off the other one, like the guidelines. We can make this a bit more curved. And now we need teeth, of course. Well, let's start with the big ones, like here in the corner. And then, of course, he'll also have some gums. Now let's make a wiggly shape like this. And now we can attach teeth here. Just pointy teeth, a little curve here, maybe add some lines like this. And then we'll also have a row of teeth here. Let's first make a line for those gums. And then around here we'll have the big lower teeth. It's right underneath the big ones at the top. Then a curved line here. And then we can add these teeth. In between these big teeth, we can make a tongue, just two of these curves. And let's make a curve like this for the inside of the mouth. Then we need the smaller teeth here. We can just make teeth like this. They're overlapping each other a bit. So make sure you start in the front and then work your way to the back like this, going along that line that we have created earlier. And then we can connect this here. And let's create a bit of like a lower inner lip curve here. And maybe some extra wiggles here. I think this looks pretty good. Maybe we can work on the eye a little bit, add an extra line like this. And like a curve like this, and then maybe here we can add some like eyelashes, just like this. Looks a little bit like feminine right now, but I think it looks cool. Of course, this is a female panther. And let's also add some whiskers. Let's make a curve like this, and then another one. Just a couple of whiskers. This one can be a little bit longer. And then this one maybe a little bit shorter again. And you can rotate. And then a small one here. So you get a nice variety. You can close it here, make the line a little bit thicker, more prominent, but later we'll create the line art and then it will really be clean. There. All right, now we have everything we need to create some clean line art. Let's check. Let's turn this off. Yeah, we can turn this one off, or you can remove it. Then let's lower the opacity of this top one to like 30%, and tap the plus for a new layer on top, and make sure to turn on Drawing Assist. Then for our color, let's pick this one. That's like, perhaps it's pure, well, it's almost pure black. Pure black will be only zeros. So we have a very dark color. And then for our brush, let's go to the pens and use the Alpine brush. Opacity of this brush should be at 100%, and let's set the size to maybe 30. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's a good size. With this brush, the harder you press, the thicker your line will become, and if you press lightly, you'll get a thin line. So you can get some nice variation in line weight. And I will just go in and follow all the lines. Don't worry about the whiskers. We can do those on a separate layer. So we can just go right through them. And just follow all the lines, and at the end of the lines you can use less pressure to get that nice thinness, nice line variation. Maybe we can make this one a little bit longer. So just going along all the lines, making something tidy. And here we can color this in a little bit. Same goes for the eyes. Let's make this curve. And this one. And then those lashes. And here we can close this to make this curve. And we can color this in. You can either drop in the color, or you can just color it in by hand. You could even make this a little bit thicker, the dark part. And for the pupil, you could hold your pen in place to create a nice, perfectly round circle. And then color it in. And so you can just continue doing this, following all your lines until you have something like this. And then for the whiskers, we can make a separate layer like I mentioned. Let's tap the plus, set that layer to drawing assist, and then let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for like maybe 8%. And then let's follow these lines. It's okay if you need multiple tries, of course. I'm trying to work from my wrist, curving my wrist on the screen. And then closing it here. I'm just rotating so I can make that curve easily. Closing it. And this one. And finally this small one over here. And then we have all the lines. Now this is also the perfect moment to create a screenshot in case you want to use that as a reference. So now at this point we can turn off our sketch layer so we just have our lines, and now we can start coloring underneath our lines. But first let's change our background color. Let's tap background color here and give it this color. So it's more like an off-white. I feel like it matches the vibe more. So for our colors, let's create a layer underneath our line. So go here, tap the plus, and then what we are going to do is we are going to create a selection of the black parts, so that when we start painting with our tattoo-like brush, we can just go over, add this nice texture, and stay within that selection. If you have a selection, you can only paint inside the selection. So in this case, that's super handy. Now there are two ways we can go about this. We can go to the selection tool, set it to freehand, and then by hand select the areas. That's one possibility. But what we can also do is go to our line art layer, tap that, set it to reference, and then let's go to this bottom layer and let's just pick a random color, like this blue would be perfect. Then we can fill in the areas. That will be black. So that's this. Let's not do the ears, not the inside of the ears, just yeah, let's just forget about the ears for now. Let's put those on a separate layer. But let's use these areas. And like this outside of the mouth. Yeah, I think this is it. Then what we can do, actually it looks kind of cool, the blue. What we can do is tap this layer, then use select. Now we have a selection of all the blue. What can be handy if you want to use this selection later on is tapping save and load, and then tap the plus. Now we have this selection over here. You can always go back to it. Now let's go back to our layers. Let's tap this and use clear. Then go back to the selection menu, go to save and load our selection again. Now we can go to our brushes, and then we'll go to the charcoals. Where are they? Over here. And then we'll use the Nut Grove brush. And then for our color, let's start with this one, second color in the first row. Now for this brush, the opacity is at 100%, size is at 50. And now we can just go over, but first, let's turn on drawing assist on this layer. We can just go over and fill these areas with this nice noisy easy brush. So just gently filling it up. Also the inside here. That looks really nice. You can make it fade a little bit towards the outside. And we can also go darker using that first color in the first row. Maybe a little bit on the inside here. A little bit on the cheeks. And here on the mouth and on the inside. That looks good. Now let's turn the selection off. I hope you're having fun so far creating your own tattoo in Procreate. If you want to learn even more about Procreate, about drawing and painting digitally, then my Patreon is really the place to be. I have more than 250 Procreate drawing and painting tutorials over there. So if you're serious about getting your skills to the next level, then I would love to see you there. I will just leave a link for you down in the description. But now let's continue. And then let's select some red parts. Let's tap the plus for a new layer, and then let's pick that blue again. Then we can drop in the color for the nose. We can go for the inside of the ears, and let's go let's go for this area. There we have a hole, so we can drop it in and then slide to the left to adjust the color drop threshold. So we can go for the gums, this outer area, and maybe the tongue. Let's try and separate some parts a bit so it's easier to add a texture and detail. So now we have this. We can tap this layer, then you select, go to save and load, then the plus. Then we'll clear this layer again. So tap it, use clear. Make sure to turn on drawing assist. Then go to the selection tool again to save and load this selection. Then let's pick this red, this third color in the first row. And let's get out of the selection tool. Let's tap the brush first, and then let's color the ear here and the nose. And then we have the gums and the tongue. Let's also go for a bit of a lighter, a pink, that fourth color in the first row. We can add some of that to the gums a bit. And here for the ears, I'd like to add some black. Let's go for this color, first color in the first row. And let's go along the inside here, shading that. And let's also do that for the nose. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for maybe 4%. Let's see. Maybe a little bit bigger. Let's go for 15. Adding a little bit of this black here at the bottom. And we can also do that a little bit over here, just shading a bit. And here at the top, a little bit of a shadow. And also for the tongue. Making rounded motions. Then let's go back to that red, third color in the first row. Let's make the brush smaller, 4%, and let's go along this edge here. I think that looks nice. Then let's turn off the selection and let's make another one. Let's tap the plus for a new layer. Now let's pick that, let's just pick that blue again. Let's put the ears on this layer. And also the other red parts. Then again, we'll tap the layer, create a selection, save it over here. Then we'll clear the layer. So we'll tap it, use clear, and tap it again to turn on drawing assist. And I will load the selection again. So we'll go to save and load that selection, then pick the brush. Let's get that a second color in the first row. So we can first work on the ears here. Now let's make the brush big again, 50%. Let's color that in. And then I'll switch to the darker color, first color in the first row, to add a little bit of a darker touch on this edge. All right, let's also add some of this black here on the inside of the mouth. Then let's switch to the red, third color in the first row. And add red here as well. And on the lips here. Then let's switch back to this color, first color in the first row. And add a little bit more over here, a little bit of that texture. Maybe a little bit more red on the edge. Third color, first row. This. Then let's switch to the pink, fourth color in the first row. Let's go in here. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 15%. Then we'll go back to the red and make the brush even smaller so we can add some detail. So 4%. Some red along the edges here. This edge. And we can also add a tiny bit of that darker color, second color in the first row. Maybe make it a little bit bigger again, 15%. For a little bit of shading here. All right, now we just need the teeth and the eyes. Let's turn the selection off. Let's make a new layer. Let's tap the plus. Now let's already set it to drawing assist. Then we can pick that blue again, or whatever color you like. Drag in the color. Now you can use continue filling, by the way, and you can just tap inside all these areas. And then we'll go to the layer again, tap it, use select. Then here at the bottom, save it by tapping save and load and then tapping the plus. Then we'll go back to the layer, tap it, clear it, and then we can go back to the selection menu, load our selection, and go back to our brush. And now we can start using this color, third color in the second row. And let's add yellow. Well, let's set the brush to, well, maybe we can keep it at 15. Yeah, I think we can keep it because that's nice for the teeth. With a bit of a fade here. Yes, the tops of the teeth. And here the lower part. And then for those smaller ones, we need to make our brush even smaller, 4%. So we can keep control. Just go over the underside. Just a bit like this. Then let's switch to this darker color, second color in the second row. Add a bit more shading. Also over here. Let's make the brush a bit bigger again, 15%. To go along this lower area and here the top area. And you can also use the second color in the first row for even more shading here at the top. Then for the eyes, let's switch to the second color in the second row. And let's go along the pupil, creating a nice gradient. Then let's make the brush smaller, 4%. And then let's make some lines here. Just a little bit of an extra touch for those eyelashes. And now we can turn the selection off. Now we just need a layer for the whiskers. So let's go here to the top to our whisker layer. Let's set that to reference. Then make a layer on top of this line art layer. Let's tap the plus. And then let's pick a color again. Now let's drag it inside the whiskers. And you can use continue filling, tap here, like this. Then go to the layer. Oh, I didn't use the symmetry tool. So we need to fill these as well. Make sure you go to the inside. All right, so we have both now. Then tap the layer, use select, save this one as well. Then clear the layer, go back to the selection tool, load your selection, and then grab your brush. Let's use this color first, third color, second row. Let's make the size 15%. And let's also turn on drawing assist on the layer. So we can work on both sides at the same time. Let's color this in. Then let's switch to the second color in the second row for the outer ends. So we can create a bit of a gradient. And then let's switch to the first color in the second row and lighten this up a bit. All right, then turn off the selection. And now for the final part, I'd like to use layer masks to add lighter edges around our line art. So let's go to our dark layer here. Let's tap it and then add a layer mask. And now for our brush, let's use where is it? Everything is like scrambled. Okay, charcoals, let's go to the Molesworth brush. And then we'll set our color to black. You can double tap here. And then on this layer mask, we can start masking parts. Now the brush opacity is at 100%, size is at 5. And for instance, we can go along this outer edge. And we can use the side of our brush a bit. If you use the side, you'll get a thicker line. We'll just go along the edge, creating this light line. Till you are here at the top. And we are also going to do that for these lines. You can use the side a bit more, creating a bit of a fade. Very gently. And this one. And if it's too much, it's becoming too light, then you can also just lower the opacity of your brush a little bit to get a bit more control. Maybe add a bit here as well. This one. That was a little bit too much. And here, light edge, then use the side a bit. And we'll also do it for the muzzle. And then up here, a little bit more faded. And also on top of the nose. add the cheeks. And then over here. And also along the lips. Let me make this a little bit thicker. You can play around a bit. And of course you could also use that other brush, the Nut Grove, and use that also for a little bit of a fade, a bit more subtle. Creating a bit of a gradient here. You could really do that anywhere. I do feel like the top of the head could be a little bit darker. So what we can do is go back to the layer, then to the selection tool, go to save and load this selection here. Then let's pick this first color and let's pick the brush. Let's set it to 50% in size and go over the top here. Make that a bit darker. I like that. And then we'll go back to the layers. Now let's go to this one and let's turn off our selection. Let's add a layer mask here. So we'll tap the layer, add a mask, then go back to that Molesworth brush, and then we're going to add some lines here as well, like along the ears. Was this the ear layer? No, it's the other one. It's the red. So it's the tongue. For instance, we can add a line here. And what else do we have? We have the nose. You don't have to go all around. We can go for this and like the top here. Then let's move to this layer, tap it, add a layer mask. And here we can add a light line here. And also along the ear. Now we just need a tiny final touch, and that's highlights on the eyes. Let's go all the way to the top. Let's tap the plus. Let's pick this color, first color in the second row. And let's see if this brush is nice for this. Yes, it is. Let's just create a little dot here, and then one with a similar size here. And of course, at the end, you can also go to the wrench, turn off your drawing guide so you don't have that line anymore. And then you can enjoy your final result. I hope you had fun. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time for the next tutorial.